and welcome to the NDI Show. I'm your host, John Powell, your NDI evangelist. NewTek's mission is to give storytellers a voice through video using innovation and technology, and part of that technology is NDI, and that's what this show is all about. On today's program is a summary consisting of 10 products in no particular order that I would give a look into if I was starting to look into this technology. So here we go. Number 10. LT Scoreboards. LT Scoreboards is a plug-in for live text, and live text is a basic character generator that was a NewTek piece that was used in earlier TriCasters, from the old TriCaster Pro, the Studio, the Broadcast, and then when they went to HD, they made an HD version of live text. What we're talking about is the external copy of live text, because most TriCasters have live text built in. So for the external version of live text, it was either on a disc or now it's a download, I believe. You can get a plug-in that makes the live text turn into basically a score bug. And there's a product out there called LT, meaning live text scoreboards. This gives sports producers the ability to have an inexpensive score stripe. But the key to LT scoreboards, there's two things that come off the top of my mind. First, it's customizable. So if you're a whiz at Photoshop and you can build something in a PNG format that preserves the alpha, you can basically go into LT scoreboards and create a look that you want. And you're toggling layers on and off for different functions for different sports. The beauty of that is you can customize. A lot of scoreboards out there from other manufacturers do a lot of cool things, but you got to pay them to pretty much customize the look you want. With LT scoreboards, anything in Photoshop you can plug right in. However, the caveat is two things. It's manual control, so you're not really going to get a data pull into it. Or you can use if you use the data link variables in live text, you can bring that in for score and stuff like that with the Daktronic boards. But it's nothing animates. You're just you're toggling things on and off. So you're turning, like in Photoshop, when you hit the eyedropper, you're turning layers on and off. And there is a particular order that you layer these things in to do that. And there'll be a later video in the series here that I'll get into a little more granular details showing you how LT scoreboards works. But Chris Gurad is the guy who basically invented this or modified this program to work, because he was an end user and needed a product that fulfilled his needs, and doing baseball, I believe it was. So what he has done is he's done an excellent basic user-friendly interface for 12 sports. And those include baseball, basketball, fighting, football, handball, hockey, paintball, soccer, tennis with doubles, water polo, wrestling, and there's also, by my request, a simple up-down timer. So basically this is a system that you can plug right in. It's very inexpensive. You want to look that up on his website at www.chrisgurad.com/LT scoreboards, or do as I do, just go to Google, type in LT scoreboards, and you'll get a link for it. And it is an excellent product. I've seen it used in the industry on large-scale productions and small-scale productions. Chris can also build animated revealers if you're using specifically the TriCaster, so it looks like the graphics animate. So drop him an email, or ping him through the internet. Tell him that John Powell sent you. He's an awesome dude, and even if you don't have the ability to build graphics, he's my favorite graphics designer. So you can ping him to build graphics to match your look. Okay, number 9. This is an interesting one. Switchblade Systems Flick and Splice. What these are micro PCs that basically run vMix. And you'd say, well, John, you're primarily a new tech user, and that's true. But I do see what I like about these two units is they're small, they're portable, and I can use them in a variety of ways. So they're a micro PC running vMix. vMix has NDI sources. One of the instances that come to my mind is say you're doing an event and you need to do a separate encode, a separate stream. You can use it as an encoder. Or you need to bring stuff in. There's two SDI inputs on the splice and I believe one on the flick. And what these can do is convert SDI to NDI and bring stuff in over the network. Or what I like this time of year to use is say you're building you're doing a sports production and you're doing a webcast. It's doing the replays and this and that. But however, you're doing a scoreboard operation at the same time. So you've got, the KISS cam and everything else going to the scoreboard, but you want a separate switch to the internet. This is a nice little thing to have in your arsenal that you can plug in, and it has its own clip stores in it, right? vMix has its own clip stores, so you could have if you're doing football, the touchdown graphics and all the in-house sponsors and everything that's specific to that output. And that could be, you could pull the same camera feeds and replays through the NDI from your TriCaster or your NDI equipped switcher. So there's a variety of things I'm sure that I haven't even thought about you can use that for, but it's just a little tiny little thing, but it would really serve a purpose if somebody. Also, it's a sense of redundancy, right? You need a separate switcher and can't afford a second full-scale production switcher. This might get you by. So I would look them up at switchbladesystems.com/vmix-micro, and you'll be able to see that. Or, again, like I said, go to Google, type in Switchblade vMix, and up it'll come. Number 8. Number 8 is Bird Dog NDI converters, and specifically the Studio and Mini. And they just announced recently that you can now use the converters not only to send video to your production switcher or replay or device, but now you can send NDI back to the converter and de-encode it for like a monitor. So say you're doing a digital signage display, or you want to be able to convert NDI back to an SDI signal. These are a perfect thing. This is kind of, as of today, what differentiates the NewTek Spark converter versus the Bird Dog. Is the Bird Dog can be used in these two different ways. So I would look those up. The mini converter that they've announced a little while back, it's a little lightweight thing. It basically can mount on your small HDMI camera, and it's about the size of like a little receiver pack for a lavalier. I mean, it's a nice lightweight. You can Velcro it on there or get a little mount, put it on the hot shoe. I mean, it's a great way to take a small, like Canon XA10 or an XA20 and convert it to NDI and use it in your studio production. So, and if you want something a little larger, the SDI realm, go to the Studio Converter. The Studio Converter is more or less used to fit on the larger ENG style TV cameras. So like where you have the mount on the back for the battery, or the Anton Bauer mount, or V mount, I believe, there's a bracket. You could put this on there, and it also conveys what camera number you're doing, and it'll light up for tally. And there is intercom that's coming down there too. I believe it's it's two-way intercom down there. Once I get one of those units in, we'll be glad to do a review of that as well. But once again, NDI converters, that's something that I'd look into, getting into setting up the IP workflow. Their website is www.bird-dog.tv. And once again, if you Google it, you're going to want to do Bird Dog NDI, so it pops up, because I recently looked at them, and there's a lot of other things that pop up under Bird Dog. So you might want to specify Bird Dog NDI if you don't remember that address, but we'll put it up graphically. Number 7. Number 7 is a product that's kind of dear to me a little bit because I had some sense of involvement with it, and that's the new Blue Effects Fusion character generator, and that's a 1RU CG that has, I would borderline say, an obscene level of 16 NDI channels if you're using that and a large production switcher. Now, coming from a broadcast background, I've used multiple channels of CG, but I don't even know if the Home Shopping Network had 16 channels of CG back in the day. But I mean, put it this way, it's extremely powerful. You can park a bug on one channel, you can do lower thirds on one channel from a home team if you're doing sports, another channel for the away team. Every version they come out with, they keep adding more features. And one of my favorite things that is applicable to the NewTek switcher and applicable to vMix is you can build macros or commands to trigger the animations that come on. Since it is animated, if you're familiar with like Adobe After Effects or Photoshop, specifically After Effects, there's a UI, it's very similar to that you can create and drop in your own effects. If you have a logo that has many layers in a PNG, you could put that in there and throw a preset on that and it'll do a preset animation. So it's a really powerful system, and the price on that thing is crazy for the value that you get out of it. Now, I will say for the traditional people that are straddling the NDI, SDI workflow, they're kind of like a hybrid system. It does have 2 channels out if you're going to go key fill into a switcher. So there is 4 output BNCs on there to get into a traditional hardware switcher. So if you're in that, like, you're going to go the NDI route, but you're going to buy CG now and then convert later, this is a perfect piece because it'll bridge the gap. And plus, when you go to NDI, like I said before, it'll give you multiple channels to get out of that CG into whatever production switch you're doing. So, like I said before, with other things, if you're feeding multiple webcasts and you need something to go to a second screen display, or you're doing multiple monitors in a TV set and you need to fill animating graphics or reveals for different segments, the new Blue Effects is really the way to go. I've not seen another system out there that does that many channels of NDI outs. And it also does tally, so you know exactly what channel you're working with. The interface is very nice, and again, the macro control, I believe, is probably one of the most underestimated features in this system. So you can have an operator calling up some thirds, and you can have macros firing from a production switcher to do other things. So it's extremely powerful and value-driven character generator. We will probably have one of those here in the next month, and I will give it a good review. We'll go over some of the UI, which is dockable and everything. It's extremely powerful, and probably one of my favorite pieces that's out on the NDI roadmap right now. Number 6. Since we're talking about kind of sports-centric things, just by coincidence, we are in the fall right now. Another piece that's NDI-driven that is extremely powerful and exciting and cost-efficient is the Replay HD by Graphic Outfitters. Rich Foley and his team out there always have a vision, and they have a way of building products. Rich comes from a broadcast background and definitely knows the workflows of systems and the reliability in mission critical ways, and probably his best part is integration with data systems. And we'll get into some of his scoring systems later in the year, but right now I want to focus on the Replay HD. The Replay HD, he has a couple different versions. One will do key fill out, which I'll get more in depth when we do a direct review of it. But what's cool is for the Blackmagic ATEM users out there, and they go, well, there's no NDI in a Blackmagic switcher. Aha, if you're doing sports, with the NDI replay system, it has NDI keyers built in. So if you have a score stripe, you can park this output on one of the keyers, and it will do your score stripe or whatever, and then do an animation wipe to a replay. Now, for the complete NDI version, which is crazy, it'll do 4, 6, or 8 channels. Now, I will say this is not a direct version of 3-play or any of the other EVS style replay systems. But what is really cool about this is it's extremely user-friendly. Basically, you're marking out points and at back times. And then you'll say, John, well, if there's no mark in button, then that kind of, if we're doing sports and stuff like that, the cool thing is you can go in and hit into a mode and mark your endpoint after the fact. So you can either gang all the channels that you're doing and mark the endpoint, or you can go to each individual channels. And as you replay, it'll do the animation to replay, and it fades between the different looks or the different angles of the cameras that you have plugged in. The cool thing is when you integrate this into your production environment, you only need a Cat6 cable to plug it in. You're not messing with the miles of SDI cable. So you plug that in, and all your cameras that are on your network, your production switchers like the NewTek TriCaster or the vMix, will convert whatever you have plugged into that to NDI, and all those sources will come right in to the Replay HD. It is really, really cool, and it debuted at NAB this past year for 2018. And you can literally and I've been around a lot of environments, you could set somebody down in front of this machine, and within 10 minutes, they will look like they've been running replay for years. So I'm extremely excited for that. It's an excellent product, and it's completely NDI capable. So to integrate that right in, again, I will elaborate a more granular review, but it's something I'm very excited to get to. To look that up a little further, there is a PDF at www.graphics, with an S, plural, graphicsoutfitters.com, and tell Rich John sent you. Number 5, Atomos X NDI module. And what this is a module that plugs into the Atomos recorders and the monitors that basically converts NDI so you could see it on the monitor, or if you're playing something out of it, goes down the NDI to your production machine. It's really kind of handy. One of the things that had been missing in the NDI marketplace was if you're out shooting something, you either had to have a computer or Microsoft Surface running Studio Monitor, right? And then you would want, if you're monitoring an NDI source. Well, with this, it's a little thing that plugs into an existing line of products, and it gives you the ability to take anything that's on the network so you can view it. So it's something that's been widely anticipated in the market, and I'm sure when they start shipping that it'll be a hot number out there. We will get one of those in as soon as possible for review. But for more information on that, that's www.atomos.com, and you want to specifically look for the Atom X. That's the module that's NDI enabled. Number 4. Sweet CG Multi-Sport Scoreboard Program. This is another CG product that's out there that is it's an animated CG. I believe it is somewhat customizable, but I like about it is it has a nice user interface. Right now, it's manually operated, so you're not doing any data pulls. But the UI on it and everything is very nice, and I see this being a product that will fit a certain niche, the sports producers out there that maybe can't go to a higher end product, but still gives that high-end look. I was very impressed with this product recently. I have a client that is doing sports broadcasts with it and wasn't aware that this is what they were using, and I was kind of blown away by the production value. So I looked into it, and this is what they were using in their StreamStar switcher to bring graphics in for their sports broadcast, and it looked amazing. Very clean graphics. The interface is, from what I've played, I downloaded the demo version. There's a free demo version, and I see further development as far as more sports. There's only a handful available right now as we're going into the fall. Football's the version I saw. But it's very clean, very nice layout, very well thought of, the layout. This is another product that the guy who basically wrote the system is an end user and a production guy himself. I'd like to say that a lot of these systems out there that people come up with are people that are out in the field doing production. And that means a lot, because sometimes you might have somebody that an engineer designs a program, and you almost have to be a NASA scientist to run the thing, you know, or it's just a different train of thought. If you're a production guy and you go, man, it would really be nice to have a button to do this, or we need to get to this quick, or we need to do that, and the UI cannot be clunky. It's always refreshing to see somebody that's doing production actually create a product, because usually the workflows are very smooth. And this is one of those products. So for more information on that, it's Suite, SUITECG.com and /multisport-scoreboard. A very cool product, and I'm anxious to see where this product goes in the marketplace. Number 3, this is one of my favorites as well. MediaLooks NDI over Ethernet. So as you know, NDI works very well in a LAN situation at the moment. But if you're trying to do something with any distance involved, if you're not on the same network and you don't know your IT guy, there could be some limitations with that. This is a product that was kind of turned on to me a while back. And basically what it is a bridge between two NDI network environments using the public internet. This was the test that I did with this. Basically, you have to build a PC to do the encode, and then you have a decode PC. But you can select which NDI camera feeds, or NDI sources, I should say, can be encoded. And it goes over the public internet. And then on your end, you select which ones you want, and then it becomes a part of your network. The example that I worked with this was, there was a school a couple hundred miles away doing a board meeting, and we set this up, and I got 4 of the robotic cameras pulled into my studio, and everything was stayed in sync for the time that I tested. And I thought, man, this is really amazing, where you can use this as a tool to connect production environments over the public internet. That kind of sounds frightening in a way, but it's really cool at the same time. I'm sure there'll be more. I think Sienna TV is another one. It has a Mac version of this encode. But for right now, you want to look, if you're a PC environment, you want to look at MediaLooks NDI over Internet. There is a free demo download for you to play with, and it has some limitations. There's a list of limitations of what it does. It'll even support Alpha Channel in the Pro version, but it is something that I think that is not very well known out there, and that's why I'm bringing it to the table. But this is something that could be extremely powerful and cool in your NDI workflow, to be able to bring a camera in from across the country or across the world. Or you want to send graphics to somewhere. Say you edited a project and you're running something out of Adobe that supports NDI, and maybe your person that has to approve it is across the country or in another state. They can, or in another country for that matter. They can use this as a tool to see exactly what you're doing. So it's extremely powerful. Another one of my favorites, the MediaLook NDI over Internet. And you want to look them up too, www.medialooks.com. Number 2 is a simple one. It's not really, it's a freebie. If you're used to VLC Media Player, you'll say, John, why would you bring up VLC Media Player? Well, I've been in some instances where you set up your production switcher, and as most production goes, there's always last-minute changes, right? For you guys out there doing PowerPoint and Keynote, you'll know what I mean. You'll go into a meeting, and you will be there right up to the last 2 minutes doing the PowerPoint deck for a client. I don't care for a small company, a big company. This is one of those last minute things. Where this comes into play is if you need to play back video. And maybe you don't want to mess with your DDRs or your clip stores, or you don't really want to tweak. You're doing a higher end thing and it's a mission critical thing and you really don't want to, maybe exit out of the TriCaster in an earlier version and import the media. This is a great way to bring in video clips on another PC that you can have set aside, and then it's a free NDI plugin from NewTek that activates the output of VLC Media Player right into your production environment. So you can be loading clips in it at any time and playing them back, and since NDI supports audio, right, you can bring your audio back in. It's like having an external clip store, and it's free. Who doesn't like free, right? So VLC Media Player, you want to check that out at www.videoland.org. I'm sure a lot of you people are used to the orange construction cone. Now it can be NDI enabled to be used as a powerful tool. And again, it plays a variety of formats. Number 1 on my list. Of course, NewTek invented NDI. I've got to make sure I bring NewTek into this. You want to check out the NDI PTZ camera and Spark NDI converter. This is a product that it's been out a couple years now, the NDI PTZ camera. What's cool about this is if you use their Studio Monitor app, you can call up and control all the controls on that app. There's been a third-party controller, whether you go through X-Keys or you go through Scarhoy, they have an external joystick controller. Or if you have a NewTek switcher that has a joystick, chances are you can control it through that. Now, if you're using something like a TriCaster TC1, or I say NewTek TC1, or a VMC line, there will be a mode to get in to use the joystick on the switcher. Now, what that might be used for, occasionally tweaking the camera, is fine, but if you need an external op, you can either use a Windows joystick using the Studio Monitor, or use a third-party joystick hardware controller. Extremely powerful. The images on these cameras are great. I will be doing a review. I have one of those right now. I'll be doing a full review on soon. But it's a very nice piece to have in. Again, if you're doing something and you need if you're doing sports, you're doing a shot in a dugout, or you just need to have set in front and do some talking heads, it's a great thing to have. It does power over Ethernet, so the integration into your production workflow is great. If you're not using a PTZ, they have a Spark NDI converter, and they just recently announced a 4K version too, since we all know 4K is coming down the line. But the NDI Spark converter is a great way. They have SDI and HDMI versions that you can plug in, and the results on that are great. You can have one of these parked anywhere on your network and convert that right in. Now, the limitation right now is it doesn't go the other direction. You can't use it to send NDI back to it for like a monitor feed or anything like that. However, I'm sure there'll probably be some sort of upgrade or a different model that will do that. It would be my guess. That's where the Bird Dog at the moment has the advantage over the Spark. But the Spark, the one thing about the Spark is there's a built-in recorder into it, so you could put a flash drive into it and record your media on that. I don't think that's widely publicized, but it does have the cool way of doing that record in the converter, which is a nice bonus to have. So you have, again, redundancy. You can record in your camera, record in the converter, and record in your production switcher, which sometimes if you're in one of those pinches where you have a power equipment failure, that might save your butt. So I would look into one of those. Obviously, they're at www.newtek.com. You can browse the store, or your authorized reseller can help you out with one of those as a demo or an integration in your environment. So that's 10 products this week. I wanted to give a brief overview. In a few weeks, we will be doing these product reviews and probably be making calls to people who are behind the scenes that can kind of tell you why their idea made them make that product. We'll have a few tricks up our sleeves or who our guests are, but looking forward to it, and I hope it benefits you guys out there in the field that maybe you're just starting to get into this NDI workflow, or you're coming from a background that has no video experience. A lot of teachers at these schools that I'm working with or have worked with, they have no video background, but they know that they have to plug a computer into an Ethernet circuit. Now they have a way to have a production switcher, and they're learning the power of NDI. I'm kind of bringing this show to market to educate and maybe bring some things to light. So sooner or later, we'll be doing some on-the-road field trips. I'm pretty excited about that. So we will see you next week on the NDI Show. I'm John Powell, your NDI evangelist, and we will see you next week. Remember, the internet audience is the most unique audience in the world. See you, everybody.